Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Looks like we are live, so I will call this meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission to order. Taking over today because Mark is off in Croatia, enjoying some cycling over there. He and his wife are off on a couple-week vacation, so the responsibility fell to me today as the vice chair. So the next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have our minutes from the April 2nd, 2025 meeting. Those were included in your packet. Mark and I, in the absence of Phil last time, tried to cobble these together, so we did the best we could. If there are any comments on those?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Item number 3 is public appearances for non-agenda items. Ross and I are the only two people in the room, and I don't see anyone else online, so I'm going to assume that there are no public appearances unless Steve Arnold pops in the door here in a minute. Item number 4 on the agenda is new member introduction. Ross, you or I want to take this?
If you want.
Brandon's our new member who's replacing Dawn Krim, whose term expired, and she stepping down from the commission. Brandon, if you wanted to take just a couple minutes to introduce yourself, and then the rest of us can kind of go around and we can introduce ourselves.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Haas. I've lived in Fitchburg my whole life in the Wildwood neighborhood is where I grew up. Went to Madison schools and eventually went to UW Whitewater for college after that. But found my way back to Fitchburg here after graduation. I work at Exact Sciences now. I manage our IT support team here. So fully intended to be on site with you guys this morning, but unfortunately had to be at the office today. So, but yeah, looking forward to working with this commission. I live in District 3 now, and I bike quite a bit recreationally. So I'm looking forward to everything we're working on.
Okay, great, welcome. I can go next. I'm Andy Potts. So I'm also a lifelong Fitchburg resident. Grew up in the Jamestown neighborhood and live in Seminole Forest now. So a former alder in Fitchburg for like 10 years. Also, but recreational cyclist as well as just practical commuting cyclist. I bike to work pretty much every day. I think I miss maybe a dozen days out of the year where I don't actually bike to work. Used to be a competitive cyclist, but the time has long since passed. And then also I'm on the chair of the Governor's Bicycle Coordinating Council, which is the kind of a statewide equivalent of this. So welcome. Jim, if you wanted to go next.
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome, Brandon. Glad to have you aboard. My name is Jim Denham, and I've been a Fitchburg resident now for I think about 7 years, something like that, and live near McKee Farms Park. My day job, I'm an access technology trainer for the Wisconsin Council of the Blind, so I teach people with vision loss how to use technology. I am kind of the pedestrian part of this. I don't usually bike, so I've done some tandem biking, but not a huge biker. But I'm very focused on pedestrian issues and helping to improve the pedestrian access for people around Fitchburg. So welcome, glad to have you aboard.
Joe?
That would leave me. Hi, Brandon. Welcome. Thank you for deciding to serve. I'm Joe Maldonado. I'm on council, been on since 2020. I love cycling. I'm mostly on my Peloton now, but when it's nice, I get out. At some point, I was a bike commuter, even in winter, but don't do that anymore much. And I live in the Belmar neighborhood, which is on the west side of Fitchburg. Glad to have you here. Good to have new energy on the commission.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Ross, if you.
Yeah, so I am Ross Kaler. I'm the city's transportation engineer. I'm kind of filling in for this commission's regular contact, Phil Groupie. He's out on paternity leave. But I handle a lot of the road projects in Fitchburg. I work closely with the planning department on a lot of the bike network and pedestrian network planning for our new neighborhoods and citywide. And I also am the staff contact for our Transportation and Transit Commission, which there is some pretty significant overlap in the goals of Bike and Ped Commission and Transportation and Transit. So work closely together. So nice to meet you, Brandon.
And I think you're at most of our meetings anyway.
Right, yeah.
You at least join us at some point for most of our meetings. So.
Yeah, I give updates on public works items at this commission since it's very relevant. So.
Okay. So next item is agenda item 4B, which is an election of the chair. So in the odd numbered years in May, under our ordinances, we were supposed to elect a chair. It has been Mark Hamilton for the past 4 years. So Mark is actually term limited on being able to continue as the chair. So at this point, I would open up the floor if there are any nominations for a chair of the commission.
I nominate Andy Potts.
I would second that nomination.
Okay, are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll close nominations. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Well, thank you, everyone. Look forward to serving as the chair of this commission for the next 2 years. I know we've got big shoes to fill with Mark, but Mark's not going anywhere, so he'll still be here to help. Item 4C is Resolution R-69-25, adopting a Vision Zero policy. Probably should get a motion first, and then we can turn it over to Ross. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Ross, if you want to explain.
Yeah. So basically, just for some context for Brandon, the way our resolutions kind of work in Fitchburg, they get referred out by our common council to various relevant committees and commissions. And there's usually a home commission that these are coming from, and then they go out to the other ones that are relevant. So the home commission for this resolution is the Transportation and Transit Commission. It's also going to the board, or it went to the Board of Public Works, and now it's here at Bike and Ped for comments and amendments, and then it goes back to Common Council for final approval or non-approval. So, but the actual technical parts of this resolution. So Vision Zero is a strategy to eliminate traffic deaths and severe injuries on our roadways. Vision Zero requires a shift in viewpoints from the traditional approach to a new way of thinking, including traffic deaths are preventable, not inevitable. We should integrate human failing into road designs. We should prevent fatal and severe crashes instead of thinking about preventing collisions. We should use a systems approach instead of individual responsibility, and that saving lives is not expensive. The City of Fitchburg has demonstrated these values in previous road construction projects and the recent rewrite of the traffic management plan. Adopting a Vision Zero policy would exemplify these values as part of the upcoming Comprehensive Safety Action Plan funded by the Greater Madison Metropolitan Planning Organization, Regional Safe Streets, Community Safety Enhancement Partnership. That's a long title, which was supported by the Common Council in R 14124. So the staff recommendation for this is my staff recommendation, is to approve because adopting a Vision Zero policy sends a clear message that the City of Fitchburg values traffic safety and will give direction to staff and future collaborators on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. Adoption, along with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, will also allow the city to be recognized as a Vision Zero community alongside others such as Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago, and dozens of other communities across the country, as well as Sun Prairie and Milwaukee County, who are currently in the process of developing their own safety action plans. So with that, Transportation Transit made a series of amendments which are listed in your packet. None of them change really the effect of this resolution. It's a lot of language cleanup and removing some references to a policy and just saying we're adopting Vision Zero, because we're not actually adopting a policy at this point. The policy will be part of the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, which will be developed basically throughout 2025 and 2026 with the consultant if we have the grant funding for it. So yeah, happy to answer any questions.
So I did have one on the Amendment 5. I guess I'm just curious what of the amendments, I guess. Any reason why that language was removed? Just seemed a little odd, but
yeah. So that amendment stemmed from basically that removes in the fifth whereas clause. It changes it to read, whereas Vision Zero recognizes that people will sometimes make mistakes, and the road system and related policies can be designed to ensure that those inevitable mistakes do not result in severe injuries or fatalities. And then it moves to the next whereas. TTC felt that we should take out the action language, such as should, and then there's some recommendations for transportation planners and engineers to make design decisions. But the whereas section of a resolution shouldn't be where you're making action language recommendations.
Okay. Thank you. And then Board of Public Works approved the amended version or the original?
Board of Public Works approved the amended version, and they also made one minor amendment that's not listed here. But I can find that quickly if I'm sharing the screen. But it was a very minor amendment, so I can come back to that in a moment if there's additional discussion.
Brandon?
I was just going to say that I happened to catch the discussion in both Board of Public Works and TTC on this, so feeling pretty good about where this landed. I've also noticed some of the changes that Madison has made, like the reduced speed limit, and also a lot of their road construction or road redesign, I guess, where they add more of that median in between. like the bike and pedestrian lane and the traffic lane. Are we planning on anything like that, Ross, like right out of the gate, or not necessarily?
So a lot of that type of stuff, the actual technical changes, would be recommendations from the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. So this, this resolution is just what is in the packet. There's no additional information or anything that's being approved right now. But the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan will be a comprehensive list of the current road infrastructure in the city, and basically have a checklist that we can move down where we can prioritize different aspects of our intersections or roads, where this one is the least expensive and the biggest safety improvement. And it'll have the actual recommendation, whether it's lower the speed limit, add a traffic signal, do a leading pedestrian interval, whatever it may be. And then hopefully we can kind of move down that list as council prioritizes funding and make those actual technical infrastructure changes at that point.
This is Jim. Will BPC get input on that as well?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Will BPC get input on that when we start making the actual policies? Will there be a chance to make some input on there as well, or is that just all done by the council?
Yeah, so that plan will go to TTC, BPC, Board of Public Works, and council prior to approval. And it's possible it might be some other committees or commissions as well. We haven't decided on that, but those three definitely.
Okay. Are there any additional questions or any additional discussion? Seeing none, we can vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, the resolution is adopted. Next, move on to item 4D, which is an update on public works projects impacting the bike and ped network. Turn over to Ross.
All right. Sorry. So the main thing that this commission, I think, is interested in is the rectangular rapid flashing beacons on the Badger State Trail crossing Lacey Road by the Seminole and Lacey roundabout are now finally operational. MG&E finally installed that electrical service and those beacons work. There's some other electrical work that our contractor has to do on that project to finish it up, but that aspect works now. So
I might go right over there after this.
And also, I think from another bike path thing, from Board of Public Works, we had a question about the Cannonball Path crossing, why that didn't have stop signs when we put up the new RRFB there. We've added stop signs for the bike path there. Those just didn't get put back up when the new beacons went up. So otherwise, the Sain Road project is proceeding. Phase 2, which is the city portion, is moving along as planned. That's kind of the portion that has the bike path along Sain, or the multi-use path along Sain closed. So that project is proceeding. And just as a reminder for everybody, that project will add 2 new RRFBs on Sain for crossing the road there. There will be a new roundabout at 9 Bark and Sain, and then another high visibility pedestrian crossing at West Clayton Road on the north end, and there will be some path improvements to go along with that. Phase 3, which is the intersection of Sain and McCoy, is on a little bit of a pause right now due to some issues with soils on that site, but we're figuring that out and hope to have that continuing next week, hopefully. So that's got improvements to that DNR parking lot and the path that goes around that parking lot, and then the multi-use trail there will go through the new intersection in a much more, I'll say, normal or expected way than it does right now. So happy to answer any other questions on those or any other public works projects.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, Ross. Great news on that RFP over at Lacey. I know it's been watching it for a while. So this is maybe more of a question for Public Works, and it's probably already been asked, but you know, we're at about a year and a half from project completion that we were without those streetlights and that RFP. Was there anything the city could have done differently to have MG&E scope that out sooner to see what the route would look like, or do they kind of not get into the picture until things are up and ready?
So basically, the city has to give notification to MG&E once the streetlight cabinet is ready for install. In this case, the contractor, per our contract, was supposed to coordinate with MG&E to get the route for that service figured out, and that didn't happen before the project was finalized. And Public Works notified MG&E, and they said this is the first time we're hearing about this, basically. So that's part of where that delay came from. Another part of it was just a period of kind of no contact from MG&E with the city. I think there was some staff turnover there, and that did not help either. So,
Got it.
yeah, I guess the city can confirm earlier on in the process with the contractor whether that contact with MG&E has been made.
And last question was, over on the Cyan project, are there streetlights all the way down now from essentially the Quick Trip area all the way to McCoy, or is it just around the roundabouts that'll be lit up?
There will be streetlights all the way down to from the start of phase 1 on that project down to the new intersection at McCoy.
Okay, awesome.
Should be similar spacing of the streetlights to the Lacey Road project west of Seminole Highway.
Any other questions for Ross? Just one thing I'd make a note of is the city's we've already gone out for bid on your chip sealing, but the map is posted on the website. So since I know chip sealing can tend to, no one likes driving through it, but in particular, if you're going through it with a bike, it's not fun. So it is out there on the city's website, and I think the city does a really good job of notifying people when it's going to happen too. So
right, yeah, we'll do social media posts, and we send letters to everyone who lives on one of those roads. But yeah.
okay, no further questions there. Go on to item 4E, Public Works CIP budget requests.
All right, let me open this up really quick. So relevant, I'll just kind of keep this relevant to this commission, and then if anyone has questions on other projects or other things that may have been talked about that you're curious if they were included, just feel free to ask. So Cyan Road north of McKee, so that's kind of a continuation north after this three-phase Cyan reconstruction that we're on right now. That project, we switched out what was planned as paved shoulders, so widening the road by 5 feet on each side. We switched that out to a boardwalk in the CIP. The boardwalk is more expensive, but due to the expected poor soils through the marsh and the stringency of the additional permitting with the DNR we would need to do to widen that road and encroach on the marsh more. Public Works felt that the boardwalk was a better option for actually getting that bike and pedestrian infrastructure in place, even if it is more expensive. And really with the issues we're having on the phase 3 part of Syene just to the south, we feel that was a very good decision, since if we had to build additional road infrastructure there, it would make that project very, very difficult and probably more expensive than we were originally estimating. So.
This is Jim. Quick question.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
Can you define the difference between a boardwalk and a sidewalk?
So a boardwalk is generally more of like a bridge type structure. So this will be on most likely wooden pilings down into the marsh. It'll be separated from the roadway. It'll have wooden or fake wooden boards as the walking or biking surface, whereas the sidewalk, if it was a sidewalk, it would be concrete directly adjacent to the roadway, and the sidewalk is built on grade, so we would have to widen out the basically causeway that part of Syene Road sits on through the marsh, which that's what leads to the difficulties with permitting and with actual construction. So.
And how far is the boardwalk from the actual street? Like, what's the separation? Are you using like 10 feet?
We haven't really gotten that far with this project yet. It really varies based on site conditions. In this case, 10 to 20 feet away from the roadway is probably a good estimate, but it would not be connected to the roadway at all. Basically, that section of Syene, there's no intersections from the McCoy intersection all the way up to basically the border with the city of Madison. So it would just be a long boardwalk through the marsh that would not really interact with the road except at each end.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
I think probably a similar situation would be on like County M up on like the north side of the lake of Lake Mendota. There's like that long stretch where I think there was a desire to put a multi-use path in, but it's all hydric soils through there because of Lake Mendota. And so there's just these long stretches of boardwalk that are being used instead. And then it ties into Governor Nelson State Park, where that is.
Okay, so then the McKee Road path, that project is basically just an administrative change. We took out the portion that was in the streets section of the CIP and moved it into the water section of the CIP, since that project is driven by the water main replacement along McKee. We felt that was a better place to have that, and then we don't have to update two projects if that water main project changes going forward. Sidewalk maintenance and improvements and path maintenance and improvements. This is another kind of admin change. So previously we had this big bundle of money for sidewalk and paths. And when we're administering our projects every year, it's pretty difficult to separate that out, that bundle of money out into what should be used for sidewalks and what should be used for paths. Because sidewalks we get assessment revenue from, and paths we do not. So if a sidewalk is replaced in front of your house, you're assessed for that. So we separated these out into two projects, and now it should be easier to budget and plan our projects every year. They'll still be done as part of the same physical project, but we plan them slightly differently. So, and no like funding change. It's the same amount of money. It's just split into two pieces now. Fitchrona Road, really no changes there. And then County Highway D, which is Fish Hatchery Road, from Sparklestone to 450 feet south of Burnland. That's the section just south of City Hall. So that includes the intersection of Nobel Drive. That intersection will most likely be getting a traffic signal as part of this project. Basically, the County Highway D, Fish Hatchery Road, is a county highway. The county will participate in the in the building of a traffic signal if it meets MUTCD warrants for volumes on the roadway, volume of cars on the roadway. And I did a study. That intersection meets those warrants, so we'll add that traffic signal into the project, and the county will pay for half of it. So the city doesn't like to put in unwarranted traffic signals, especially on county highways, because of the expense. But if we can get the county to pay for half of them, it becomes much more realistic for the city.
I wouldn't have thought Nobel had that much traffic on it, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of it is
depends on the
traffic
time
on
of year.
Fish Hatchery Road.
Yeah.
So, Nobel is the minor street, so it requires a lot less there.
I figure anything on Fish Hatchery would probably have it. It's
and then let's see what else. Extending bus rapid transit. I don't know how familiar. I think Steve Arnold has talked about some of the path improvements on that project he wanted. So basically that is just including some path improvements for the same construction year as BRT, which is 2027. So our southern terminus of BRT at McKee and Triverton Pike, there's a bunch of paths that almost get there, but not quite. Like south from McKee Farms Park, the Capital City State Trail from Fish Hatchery Road, and then a couple of others. So this would just be finishing all of those to get to this southern terminus point. So, and then the Oregon Rotary Trail Extension is a new item. That is basically a connection from where the Oregon Rotary Trail ends at Fish Hatchery Road and about 500 feet south of the Fitchburg and Town of Oregon border. So that would be reliant on the Town of Oregon constructing some sort of path north on Fish Hatchery Road to the Fitchburg border, and then Fitchburg taking that to the west to Purcell Road. And that's also, there's a property owner who doesn't really want to give the city an easement for that area, so that would be dependent on that property owner as well. So that one is put way out at the end of the CIP. The CIP is a 10-year planning document, and this is in the 10th year. So those are kind of the relevant things to this commission. Happy to answer any questions on those or other items.
Can you explain again the timing? Sorry, the timing for the BRT paths, is that planned to be done? I mean, in conjunction with the BRT being completed in 27? What's the timing there?
That is correct. It'll be part of a separate city project, but it'll be done in the same year that the BRT stations are being constructed, which is 2027.
Any further questions for Ross? Okay, could move on to 4F, the Dunsmarsh Walk debrief. I know Joe said he wanted to share his screen. If we could flip that over to him.
There you go. You should be able to now, Joe.
Right. Yep. So this kind of came about as a product of our last meeting where we discussed having community walk So just volunteered to do it. I live in the Duns Marsh neighborhood, the Belmar neighborhood. So we're right maybe like 4 blocks from the Avello Underground, obviously surrounded by a lot of beautiful nature. So myself, Ryan Huselman, Dave Herbst, trying to think who all was there. There's a pretty big group, is about 9 of us. We ended up walking around with Sonia Hackle, who's one of the members of the Allied Duns Marsh Neighborhood Association. We essentially did a loop around the marsh itself. We started at near the Boys and Girls Club, Allied Family Center, walked down to the Cannonball Trail, and then just did a loop around it and came back. We decided to, let me see. Let me stop share real quick. So one of the things we did is just, apart from just getting out in nature, we looked at kind of how walkable the area is. And we took a few pictures of sorry, give me 1 second here. For some reason, it's not letting me go. We took a picture of the boardwalk and just noticed a few like trip hazards. So there's like a warped board right here at the end of it leading onto the Cannonball Trail. And we also noticed that the board, I've experienced this, Ryan has as well, that the boardwalk, when it gets to be towards winter, like kind of that period where the ice is starting to form, the boardwalk can be really slippery. So Ryan inquired about, the possibility of putting down some sort of a treatment to be able to make it a little bit more durable, or, adding some texture to the boardwalk. And I did share those comments with our city administrator as well as Mark, and forwarded it on to the mayor as well. So, that's kind of the only big noticing we had. The area's pretty walkable. There's sidewalks all the way from the club to here to be able to get there. You do need to cross through a parking lot to get through one entrance, but on the other entrance, it's leading up to this boardwalk, and you can get all the way around walking. There's also access to there's like a mountain bike trail as well. We didn't walk up that, but there's a lot to do in this area, and definitely feel fortunate to live here. Any questions that folks have?
Joe, I was just curious how many people attended the walking event.
There were 9 of us. I'm trying to recall everybody that was there, but we did have 3 members of our Bike and Ped Commission present, as well as 2 alders. So,
I mean, not bad for, given that it was a first time, and kind of we just decided to do it at the last meeting. So
yeah. I also mentioned Bill Jetzer came, Alder Jetzer, as well as his wife Kelly, who's on Bike and Ped Commission as well. So
great. Yeah, look forward to doing more events like that. Any questions for Joe?
Hey, Joe, it's Jim. Sorry I couldn't make it. I had a family obligation that day, but sounds like a really cool event. Any feedback from the city on the improvements that you suggested? Any say, yeah, we can get that implemented? Any response back?
I hadn't heard back. I don't know, since we got Ross here, any reactions to those photos, to that feedback?
I think the the raised board, easy fix. I'm betting that Mark and Joran will get on that as soon as they have time. Some sort of friction treatment. I know I heard this commission talking about that walk was slippery. I haven't heard from Mark or Joran or Tim anything regarding that, like friction treatment or anything. I was running, I don't remember if it was in DeForest or Windsor, but they have a very similar boardwalk up there, and I'm assuming it has the same issue with being slippery kind of in the shoulder seasons, and they just have, caution boardwalk slippery signs at each end.
This already has those.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, yeah. So, but yeah, I think if there's some sort of friction treatment we can put on it, that would probably be helpful, but I don't have a lot of experience with this deck surface and treatments like that, so.
Yeah, I guess I'd add, because it's not just, I mean, it's the shoulder seasons, but also because I'm out biking at ungodly early hours. Like
a little bit wet at all.
Yeah, if it gets just a little bit wet. So even like if you're out there at like 5:30 in the morning when there's dew, it can get really slick too.
Yep.
Just have to be careful.
I've fallen before.
All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, and if there are folks on the commission that have ideas for, doing walks in different places, obviously there's a lot of natural beauty in Fitchburg. Would love to participate.
All right. If there are no further questions on that, move on to 4G, update on the presentation to the Committee of the Whole. I know it's now you're older Maldonado, you were Joe in the previous one.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's two me's. So I guess it would be helpful for new members to kind of understand how the process works a little bit. So I'll share screen again. Just for those who don't know, the capital improvement plan is the city's mechanism for long-term planning around various projects. And it operates on a 10-year timeline. So essentially every year we update it with the next year. So in this case, it's 2026 through 2035. The mayor is the person responsible for drafting the CIP in collaboration with staff. And then the alders have an opportunity to present amendments to that plan. I've shared my screen and kind of shown the schedule of the CIP. A couple important dates to note. In June, on the 24th, there will be a public hearing at our Common Council meeting to allow residents to weigh in and give input on CIP items and amendments. We're going to have a discussion on the 28th of the process, the 28th of May. The mayor will make her decision and essentially publish it on June 6th. So I would just say if there are things that you're interested in potentially, being sponsored here, I'm glad to talk about it. But also just know that, as mentioned in a couple items back, the mayor is in touch with department heads and, takes their recommendation seriously as well. So I'll just leave it at that and see if anybody has any questions. The CIP is not something that's binding, right? Budgets change. The budgets are the ultimate measure of kind of how we spend our funds. But the CIP is a planning document to be able to guide that funding so that we're having a long-term vision for our work. I'll scroll down a little bit to just kind of show, the final adoption is August 12th this year.
That Common Council meeting on the June 24th, probably one of the more fun ones of the year as well. So
One of the longer ones of the year too.
Yes, very long. I mean, sometimes the CIP process has been pretty short. Sometimes it's taken a long time. It really just depends on how many amendments there are, and the lively discussion that comes around those amendments. But there have also been times when there's been, very few, like maybe only 2.
All right. Thanks for that, Joe. Do you want to touch on this board's presentation, or this commission's presentation to the committee of the whole? Potentially, we're talking like September, maybe.
Yeah. So we've been in conversation with our council president. So again, just kind of a procedural thing. Our council elects a new president every April. Alder Gearhart has been elected by her colleagues to serve another term as council president. So she's essentially the person that sets the committee of the whole meetings. Those meetings are a setting in which council gathers separately from our common council meetings to discuss various topics. And one of those topics that our commission has requested is to be able to present. Obviously, we're updating our bike and ped plan, so this would be, a good year to be able to present that. And the council president, as well as our city administrator, have worked with Mark to set a date for September. So in our September committee of the whole meeting, we will be given, I believe, an hour to discuss the bike and ped plan, which I believe should be updated by that point. So it'll be a good chance for council to be able to weigh in. I believe, and correct me, Ross, or anybody else if I'm wrong, that meeting would be September 24th, which would be the 4th Wednesday of the month.
I'll take your word for it. I don't have the calendar in front of me. Sounds like you do.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, I'll definitely correct myself. So I'm sure we can talk about how to plan for this meeting in one of our upcoming bike and ped meetings. So once that date is set and confirmed, it's pretty much, set and confirmed now, but I'll let you all know officially.
That is the date of the September committee of the whole meeting, is the 24th. So.
Okay. Excellent.
I was going to ask, when did we present last to committee of the whole? Do we do like once a year, or is it not even that frequent?
No, it's not that frequent. There's various topics that tend to take up the attention, and there's sort of a lot of things in committee of the whole meetings that are preset already. So oftentimes if there's like a project that's coming up, some sort of update from a committee, it could be literally any topic that the council president chooses. And we've been vying for this for a little bit. So I really don't remember in any of my time on council us presenting to Kyle.
We did. It's got to be like 5-ish years ago.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Might have been prior to me coming on.
Yeah.
I know for public works, we like a 2-year cycle seems to work pretty decently for us, just because that's also the kind of new council member schedule. So.
Okay, well, I can put something on the agenda for an upcoming meeting too, just what topics we would like to have discussed at that presentation. Okay. Moving on to item number 5, which is a report from the department. 5A is our council update. I don't know, Joe, if you had anything else to add. Okay. 5B is the staff update to commission. Ross, if you had anything further.
So a lot of the stuff that I would normally have in a staff report, I've kind of already talked about with the CIP and then the public works projects. So bike and ped plan, we just received a draft from the consultant on that. Phil Gruby, Brad Sipple, and I, and some other staff members. And our staff review is due to the consultant on May 20th, and then they'll compile all of our comments and I believe present it at the June meeting of this commission for your comments. Obviously, once Phil gets back and can kind of wrap his head around the schedule, things may change a little bit, but that's kind of what Brad and I were thinking while Phil's out. So, and then also, so April 24th, Phil welcomed Matilda, is his new daughter. So everybody's doing well. I just had to look up the email to remember her name. So yeah, that's my short, sweet staff report.
I guess maybe just quickly for Brandon. So I think we last updated our Fitchburg bike and ped plan in 2017, and we intended to do it several years ago. It's gotten pushed back just for various reasons, but this is kind of our comprehensive plan for the entire city and kind of outlining both, it's sort of a programmatic policy document on like, these are the policies that we feel that the city should have related to bike and ped, but then it's also kind of more practical in the sense that it has like an actual kind of like punch list of items that we need to accomplish. I think this commission has been involved in reviewing the old version of it, and I think the decision was largely made that most of what was in the 2017 plan is still largely relevant today. In a lot of cases, it was just the punch list of items needed to be updated. Like, for example, one of the items we had in 2017 was we want to get B-cycle to Fitchburg. It's like, well, we have it now, we can take that off, or at least rephrase it to, you know, the sense of like expanding the network within it. But I know I think there's some specific references to like certain projects, like building a bike and ped bridge over, I think McKee Road was in there, was one, which the one on the Badger State Trail, it's there now, we don't need to have that item. So, so we did hire a consultant. It's a fairly abbreviated process. When we last did a bike and ped plan update, it was like year-long, pretty big, you know, like monthly meetings, fairly heavy lift. This is more of a refresh. So we've hired a consultant to go through that. This commission actually had a kind of a design charrette with them, what, 7-8 weeks ago, maybe longer.
Something like that.
Where we just kind of all sat in this room and kind of went over different projects within the city and had maps, and we could kind of highlight areas. So as Ross mentioned, they have now submitted kind of a staff draft. And so eventually that will be coming back to us for review, and we'll have public hearings on it over kind of the course of the summer. Any questions on that?
And then does any other commission or common council then vote on that plan before it's actually published, or
yes? So
is it just a vote on our commission?
So it will, I believe it's going here, presumably transportation, transit,
Probably public
works. I don't know if plan would maybe get it to.
Probably, since Phil is in the planning department, I would guess.
So,
but
yeah, so it'll go to this commission as well as other boards and commissions within the city, and then ultimately would have to be adopted by the city council.
Got it.
Okay. If there's nothing else under staff updates, 5C is the Bike Fitchburg update. I know Steve Arnold said he was leading a group of high schoolers on a bike ride this morning, so he's not here, and I don't see Tony Hartman, who who's our other usual prime suspect for Bike Fitchburg updates, so I'm assuming we don't have one this month. So moving on to item number 6, which is announcements. In the past, we've had an agenda item on kind of announcements for bike-related events in the city, so I'll just throw them here. First off, the Fitchburg Senior Center Rides for Joe actually starts today at 10 o'clock is the first one. So those are a monthly ride. It's always the first Wednesday of the month. They run May through October, and it's just a casual ride with the senior center, with kind of volunteers, largely drawn from this commission, who kind of there's usually like a longer ride of maybe 15 to 20 miles and a shorter ride that's like 6 to 10 miles. And it's a nice, slow social gathering. Part of it was kind of in response that we heard on the commission that the city was not doing enough to promote cycling amongst senior citizens. So I think the commission just kind of took it upon itself to start an event. So if anyone's ever available to go on those rides, certainly the more the merrier. And the other item is, I don't have the exact date, but I'll be sure to get it so it's in the minutes. The Fitchburg Draft Picks ride will be coming up in June, which is being sponsored by the Fitchburg Chamber, and that's in coordination with our 3 brew pubs in Fitchburg. So the plan is that the ride would start at the Hop House on Seminole Highway, taking the bike path network over to the Great Dane, and then continuing on to Delta Beer Lab, and then returning back to Hop House. And it's out on the Fitchburg Chamber's website if anyone's interested in signing up. I think it's $25 to do that. But again, another bike event that's going on in the city in June. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, just note that our next meeting is June 4th. And with that, we'll move on to item number 7, which is adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.